Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Strike Defense Dialogue. Namaskar, Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and a very Jai Hind to each of our users and viewers. Uh, Today we are going to discuss a subject जो हाल में अभी प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन हुए हैं यूएस में उसके बारे में और उसका भारतवर्ष पे क्या असर पड़ने वाला है एंड आज के हमारे डिस्कसेंट हमारे अपने ही जनरल हर्ष कक्कड़ हैं जो इस क्षेत्र में बहुत ज्ञानी हैं। जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं कि ये इलेक्शन जो थे जब शुरू कुछ दिनों से ये जैसे अमेरिका भी भारत की तरह छूट नहीं है कि जहाँ पे कि एग्जिट पोल और ओपिनियन पोल वो सब बेकार का कुछ सब झूठ निकला और एक ऐसा इलेक्शन निकल के आया जिसमें कि बिल्कुल एक तरफा जीत हुई है। वो डेड हीट और ये सब जो कहा जा रहा था कुछ नहीं हुआ और ये पहली बार हुआ। 2016 में भी ट्रम्प साहब को इस तरह का मैंडेट नहीं मिला था जिसमें कि इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज और पॉपुलर वोट दोनों ही उनके फेवर में गए हों। इवन बाइडेन साहब के टाइम में भी जैसे ये उन पर आरोप लग रहा था कि उन्होंने इलेक्शन चुरा लिया और जो भी है, तो ये बिल्कुल क्लियर कट हुआ कि अमेरिका जो है डोनाल्ड ट्रंप 2.0 के साथ है। तो इसमें लेकिन जो डोनाल्ड ट्रंप हैं क्या इनका वैसा ही रहेगा जैसा कि 2016 में जब ये आए थे या कुछ फर्क होगा? हर्ष, आप इस इलेक्शन को कैसे देखते हो? मेरा पहला प्रश्न है आपसे।
सर, see, अगर आप देखो the way it was conducted and the way the polls were talking 49-49, 48-49, as usual, it turned out to be absolutely a dumb squid. Trump came in hands down. What were the issues, sir? If you look at it, and they were basically dealing with internal and external as compared to Indian elections, which are generally on internal. First was immigration. The second issue was the Ukraine war. The third issue was to make America great again by bringing up the economy, by creating jobs, which was basically to either cut down on imports, to create jobs within, or at the same time put tariffs on import, which will benefit the American economy. All in all, sir, it was a mix of all, but people had realized that Biden and his team, including Kamala Harris, who had been the vice president, unluckily she carried the Biden tag, is not going to change in its policies, and the American taxpayer is paying to fund the war in Ukraine. The American taxpayer is losing his money in other spheres, whereas within the US, you need healthcare, you need other issues which are being ignored.
I think by one estimate, यूक्रेन पे $295 billion खर्चा कर चुके हैं Americans.
And what was the end result? You've got nothing, sir. The fact is that the only commonality between both sides was that the Chinese need to be contained. And that is something which is very, very interesting. And how they're going to handle it is what we need to see. Whereas Trump and Putin have a different wicket, the Biden administration has a different wicket. So even on Israel and Gaza, Kamala Harris tried to play the card that I'm going to question Putin on his attacks on Gaza and the casualties that are coming up. Trump made no mention of Gaza. He was very clear that he backs Putin.
And Michigan में हार भी गई. कमला हैरिस मिशिगन में हार भी गई जहाँ के उनका असर था.
And most interesting, I think the guy Hope, the man who led the hard action against Iran, is now the understudy, or you could say a possible US Secretary of State, because he's been told to oversee the Secretary of State's job for the Trump administration, which is to come in. You see, now in these 2 months, the Trump administration will nominate people to go to be attached to each of the departments.
हर्ष, 1 मिनट के लिए मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को बताना चाहता हूं कि इस इलेक्शन के बाद 20 जनवरी को जो है ये सत्ता का हस्तांतरण होगा और इन 75 दिनों में पहले जा करके प्रेसिडेंट से मिलेंगे, जो बाइडेन से, और इनका एक तरह से एक्सचेंज होगा, और जिससे कि नया एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पहले दिन से इफेक्टिव हो जाए. ओवर टू हर्ष प्लीज.
सो सर, जो उनको दे विल नॉमिनेट इंडिविजुअल्स जिनका काम होगा टू ओवरसी द टर्नओवर, द चेंज ओवर. इसका मतलब जो करंट पॉलिसीज है, जो करंट केसेस, जैसे हम लोगों का हैंडिंग टेकिंग ओवर होता है, सो हर डिपार्टमेंट में एक ना एक इंडिकेट करे, वो नॉमिनेट करेंगे. The individual that they've nominated for the State Department is Hope, who led the demand that Iran ke khilaf there should be very strict action. So the first indicator is already out, that you are looking in this direction. The rest of it will flow. But it's very interesting to see the way countries are reacting, sir. There's a lot of fun watching it. If you look, let's take our immediate neighborhood, and then let's move on to the country with whom India is having a major tiff, that's Canada. Let's start with our neighborhoods. Now, Mohammad Yusuf, who's handling Bangladesh today, he has been a known Democrat. To the extent, Barack Obama gifted him with a Medal of Honor. He's a member of the Clinton Foundation. The photographs are there of Barack Obama putting the medal around his neck. He recently, when he went down to the US, he was seen with Bill Clinton on the stage. He's a member of the Clinton Foundation. He funded the Biden campaign against Trump. And he also would have funded the Kamala Harris campaign against Trump. Trump's remarks during the election campaign on the genocide of Hindus in Bangladesh carries a lot of weight. Now, the sort of support...
वो तो एक ऐसा रिमार्क था कि हमारे अपने इंडिया के अपोजिशन ने नहीं दिया हिंदू जेनोसाइड के बारे में, जबकि ट्रंप ने बोला है. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग रिमार्क था.
And the fact is that so far there have been a series of meetings between the Biden administration and Mohammad Yusuf. Now, when
Mohammad Yunus.
Now, when the Trump administration remembers Donald Lu and the rest of them came down to India, they had the interaction in India, then they went down to Bangladesh and met Yunus. So there has been a talk of the US and Yunus getting along, and possibly a lot of support coming up to Bangladesh in the times ahead. While there are claims that Bangladesh will not be on his priority list, but if you follow a few writers on social media who are quoting members of the Trump administration, it is very clear a priority. Second interesting one to watch is Pakistan.
तो ये जो बांग्लादेश की आप कह रहे हैं, एक मिनट, जो सॉरी आपको इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ, ये जो बांग्लादेश के बारे में आप कह रहे हैं, तो क्या ये कंटिन्यूएशन ऑफ पॉलिसी होगी, अमेरिकन पॉलिसी, या देयर विल बी सम चेंज यू एंटिसिपेट?
Sir, I feel that there will be a major change, because the sort of support that Yunus has been getting from the Biden administration, basically because of his links with members of the party. So Barack Obama, everybody knew, is running the current administration. Everyone knows that Clinton has a major grip. It was working as a team. Whether we call it the deep state, call it what you want. They were working as a team. The whole team is now dismantled. They have no role. It's going to be a fresh group coming up altogether. How will this group act? How will they work? Kitna pressure dalenge, we'll come to know, but definitely it's going to be a different ball game. Second, sir, इसी में अगर आप ले लो, Sheikh Hasina sent a separate congratulatory letter.
Very interesting. Today आज था
right. में. So her sending a congratulatory letter has another connotation. Because officially she is still the prime minister. There has been no resignation.
President ने कह दिया, उनके president ने कह दिया.
And now with Trump's remarks on the genocide, Trump's remarks in crackdown, today the Indian MEA has warned Bangladesh, crackdown. Now the pressure in Bangladesh is going to mount. As it is, sir, the changeover of the government in Bangladesh has led to a major inflow or a benefit to the Indian garment industry. So it has actually benefited us what has happened in Bangladesh. But it's about time that unless they realize what is happening and the pressure that's going to mount, things are not going to be the same. How will it play out? Let's wait and see. Let's look at Pakistan's. The special advisor to PM Shehbaz Sharif, the name is slipping my mind. I can relocate it in a minute on social media. He commented today or yesterday after the results came out that Trump is like Imran. Both are liars. Both are womanizers. I mean, he went on and on Trump in a TV interview. Meantime, Shehbaz Sharif has said that if the US wants, they can shut us down in minutes. Last time it was Trump that blocked all flow of funds to Pakistan. The Pakistan military was at a dead end. Link it to with today's.
FATF was also there that time.
Sir,
FATF did not raise.
Link it up with today. The Indian MEA desk officer dealing with Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran was in Kabul. He met the defense minister of the Taliban, as also other ministers in the Taliban government. Now, India wouldn't have done this without a reason. Because Trump's one comment is all those responsible for the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, I want their resignations on my desk on the first day when I joined. By noon that day, I want their resignations. Secondly, Trump would want the Taliban to handle the ISIS. Who's going to be the go-between? This is where India comes into place. So this is today's interaction.
Thanks to Durand line.
So, now with India engaging with the Taliban, willing to provide it humanitarian aid, willing to provide it a corridor through the Chabahar port, India's relations with Iran will get secure.
Not to forget, Jadeja not charging any penny for the training of Afghanistan cricket team.
Now, India's Chabahar port will be untouched by Trump. If he wants to engage with the Taliban, it is India, and the only trade route should be through Chabahar, so he's going to leave that free while he continues applying pressure on Iran. He needs India here. So relationships are moving. And there is no way we wouldn't have done this without having discussed it at some level. Now, let's go to Canada. That's the best and the most interesting part. 3 top Canadian representatives, or in fact, 2 top Canadian representatives. Freeland, the Deputy Foreign Minister, Cynthia Freeland, and Jagmeet Singh. All of them have said, both of them have said that with Trump coming in, it is going to be bad days for Canada. All Canadians must unite. All Canadians must be together to prevent Trump from making things difficult for us. Now, where is the difficult part, sir? Firstly, Trudeau and Trump don't see eye to eye. He calls him a liberal. I mean, he calls him I don't know what all abusive words Trump has used for Trudeau in recent days. He's gone so far to say that I have heard that his father is Fidel Castro, though he denies it, but how would he know? Which implied that he wasn't, I mean, if he's his father, how would he know whose father was? He wasn't born then. So Trump has gone so far to write this in his book, Save America, which came out during the campaign as part of his campaign talks. Now, Trudeau criticized Trump as far recent as January, sir. Acha, एक second, sir. I must read out exactly what Trudeau, he has called him a far left lunatic, as also he's called him two-faced. Now, Jagmeet Singh has been saying that we must expect an influx of terrorists. He is now concerned because of 2-3 factors. The simplest of factors is Trump is going to go after immigration, illegal immigration. Where do the illegal immigrants go? The nearest and the best border to cross over is the open border with Canada. Quebec and the other province saying we are going to block the border. So there is already a fight between Ottawa and the provinces. Second, Trump has made it very clear that I'm going to impose a 10% penalty, a 10% tariff on all imports coming in. If he imposes a 10% tariff on all imports from Canada, it is straightaway a 7 billion drop in the Canadian GDP by 2028. That's a massive figure to take on. It's going to shoot prices up. It's going to make things worse in Canada. Now, the fight between Trump and Trudeau is not only there, sir. Earlier, in Trump's last tenure, Trudeau was caught on camera mocking Trump in a NATO meeting. Next day, Trudeau was asked, did you apologize to Trump for that mocking that was caught on camera? He kept flubbing, as he normally does, but he never answered. And that is something that is coming into the headlines now, and that's being projected, which is why Trump doesn't like him at all. He's given him all sorts of names, and if you can call the leader of a neighboring country's father as Fidel Castro and saying he doesn't know, he may not know. I think, nothing more could be a bigger insult for Canada. Now, the fear coming in is India-US are bound to be close because, firstly, even if he imposes a 10 or 20% tariff, the impact on our GDP is 0.1% by 2028. But if you look at the Indo-US representative, sir, the Salab Kumar, who is close to Trump.
Yeah.
Correct, sir. Very close to Trump and possibly may get a major portfolio in time to come. Salab Kumar has made two things very clear from what he expects from the Trump administration, and that is coming in from person who's I would say it's from the horse's mouth. First, he said that the US is looking for a free trade agreement with India. The second, he said, is that the US is going to crack down on Khalistan. Now, friend Panur, in order to throw everybody into confusion, has posted a video on Twitter saying that in 2019, in one of those events, he was a special invitee. And 2019, Trump was the president. People have fallen for it, saying that he's been protected by the deep state, all that crap. That is why he was called. The fact is, India declared him a terrorist in 2020. And we wanted to issue a red collar notice in 2021. Trump was nowhere the president when we wanted to issue the red collar notice. When we wanted to issue it, the Interpol said no because they said his activities are political. They are not terrorism. They're also linked to politics. So therefore, we can't give a red collar notice. This was 2021. But other inputs coming in from the US side is there's going to be no pressure on the Pannun case. It's all dead and gone. He's going to crack down on Khalistan because naturally he's looking at India's support to deal with China. He's going to look at India's support to deal with the neighborhood.
Just one thing which I would like to bring to your notice. You see, it is not a mere coincidence that suddenly the Hindu consolidation has started taking place in Canada. So far, Hindu community was absolutely quiet. But suddenly, after his comment against Bangladesh, Hindus and all those things, they started coming to their own.
Sir, actually, even there, they wouldn't have come up. The Brampton incident changed everything.
Yes.
You see, the intention of the Brampton incident then was a deep state ploy to create a divide between Hindus and Sikhs in Canada, which is bound to flow into India because all who are living in Canada have their links in India. Whether you're an OCI, whether whatever, you've got your families here in some distant families' houses. You look at Pannun, uska ghar yahan pe unhone utha liya.
Chandigarh mein.
There is no one who's there who doesn't have a backup here, a family here. Now with this happening, the aim was to cause the divide. It worked. That's why there were calls coming in, Indian Army to come in to destroy Gurdwaras. All those calls were coming in because you created a divide. which was an intent. And that was the intent of Panu. But simultaneously, if you look at what Trump has said, and now he's in the chair, now things are going to change. Because you can't operate the way you are operating now. You have to change. So as far as, and the other interesting part, so you just look at the impact that's coming in. Now let's look at the rest of the world. The Houthis have declared a ceasefire. Now, while Ukraine and Putin have both congratulated Trump, and
Has Putin done that?
Huh, sir?
Has Putin done that?
Putin has done it officially, but no, it's come in officially, but that's it. It's not in a form that I'm looking forward to meet. It's just a word of congratulation, which happens even when we and China were against one another and we had no diplomatic network communications. The president of India congratulated the president of China on his re-election last year. Similarly, when I think he congratulated her for Republic Day, Independence Day and the work. So now things will change. But that was how, those are diplomatic courtesies. But definitely Putin is very clear that he and Trump will be on a one-to-one conversation. There are talks that the Biden administration is going to pump what it can into Ukraine now. But what's the good? You're only going to cause more damage. And now with the North Korean soldiers there, anyway, it's a different ballgame. So what you're going to get now is, if there's going to be any discussion to resolve the Ukraine-Russia war, which country can be the intermediary with both sides and the US accept? There's only one.
India.
There's no other nation which is acceptable to all sides. No other nation. So automatically you're going to be on a common platform. Putin is going to support Israel. There is no doubt about it. So that factor is going to come in. If he's going to go after China, and if he's going to go after handling the Chinese expansion or whatever there, he needs India. So if you look at it in all ways, as the other factor, it was there in his first tenure, it was there in Biden's tenure, it will continue his second tenure. India must look at procuring weapons from the US, which we already are doing. Establishing factories.
One small question I have. Trump being a businessman that he is, what about the technology transfer which will take place? Will it be, or he'll say, you buy weapons from us, I'll give you MRO facility. Especially I'm talking in terms of that MRFA deal.
Sir, in all cases, sir, even technology transfer you pay through your nose. None of it comes to you free.
No,
so when you make a deal, it encompasses everything. So for them, you're still getting paid. Like even today, when we manufacture the Russian Su-30s in India, for every aircraft that you manufacture in India, you're paying Russia the certain amount of premium or whatever. And certain amount of parts will continue coming in. So there is no doubt about it that anything and everything that you take, you're paying for it. So that way, there is no loser. The benefit why we want it is you have a base technology from where you take off. A simple example, though of course we slept for 20 years like idiots, is the ATAGS, which is a takeoff from Bofors. We could have done that 20 years back because we were sitting on the technology. But for some reason, we never did. Let's not get into that subject. That's a different ballgame altogether.
It's a different ballgame. Yes, I agree with you.
But the fact is, we didn't. So now what you want is a takeoff level of technology. We've created a technological base. Now we can take it off and we can accept technology. So for him, it is funds. It is employment. For us, it is technology, it is the weapons, it is the equipment. The fact that you're manufacturing in India, it cannot be curtailed on account. The only difference is you cannot curtail the manufacturing in case India is acting against US interests. That is something that will remain, and that is a fact which the way relationship has been building up over the years and the way it's going, the oldest and the largest democracies are on the same page, at least as far as Trump is concerned. So things will look good. And the sad part is that while it's looking good for India, it's looking bad for Canada, Pakistan, and Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. What about China? What's your view? Indo-China relations, China-US relations, China-Russian relations, because all these three are, say, intertwined, and we have to look at it in a more broader perspective.
So if you look at Russia, China, they're already close. There's nothing that's going to take them away. They
Now
will
with
remain close.
Trump's equation with Russia, will
Even then,
he try to wean away China from Russia from
he will
China?
attempt to, sir, but it's not going to be so easy, because by the time you resolve Ukraine, depends on how it gets resolved. Talks are going to take time. But if he can push through a ceasefire using India, I think a lot will happen. Second is, as far as India-China is concerned, so we are looking at resolving our borders with China. We still have issues over trade, and I think the US is going to impose more of trade restrictions on China. That's the first point. He says, I'm going to go up to tariffs of up to 50 to 60%. Now, if the trade issue comes up with China, what India's got to be careful about is China dumping its cheap products of India and on India and hoping India would send it to the US is not going to work. We have to be very clear on our trade policy. We have to link it up with the US. As far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, as far as the Quad is concerned, there will be no letdowns. Our relations with China may be stable along the LAC. The fact of trust, the fact of peace, the fact that the Chinese are growing in military power is a threat that we will always have. So if we have to counter the threat, we need not alliances, we need allies. Acha, I forgot to mention, so one more factor which has got the Canadians jumping is that Trump has said that any country which doesn't spend 2% on GDP, I'm not going to take any responsibility for their defense. The Canadian GDP on defense is barely 1%. If they raise the GDP, it's going to hit the economy which has already been hit. So there are so many issues that are impacting Europe. I don't know how NATO is going to take it. Because for them, the main fight is the expenditure on defense.
Yeah. Sorry.
Nice. So, ये है status. You wanted, you were talking about the deep state. Sir?
Yeah, deep state.
So,
how is it going to?
If you look at it, Soros was backing Kamala Harris.
Yes, indeed, he was backing.
Right. And if you look at the sort of approach that Kamala Harris took in her political campaign, and the approach Rahul Gandhi took in the political campaign in India, it was evident both were guided by the same.
Identical. Both were saving constitution with whatever that means.
Saving the constitution, saving democracy, all that crap. Now, he's never been with Soros. And in all likelihood, the deep state to some extent was being backed by the US government.
Yes.
As long as Biden was there.
CIA, FBI, part of
which is why you had the pressure coming on to India on Pannon's case and the other issues.
Donald Lu and all are the part of government.
So all of these guys, plus the pressure on that Pannon's assassination case, all that was coming on to India, was coming in because the deep state was pressurizing it. Trump has witnessed the impact of the deep state in India because he was here for the Trump rally in Ahmedabad when the Shaheen Bagh protests took off and it became violent protests. He was here. There is no doubt he would have been briefed very clearly that this is the impact of the deep state. Now he's already promised to remove all those characters who are impacting the deep state in various departments, including the FBI and CBI, which is why that Indian who's likely to head the FBI is being talked about a lot.
Yes,
He was to become the deputy director of FBI last time in Trump's tenure, but the director threatened to resign, so he didn't become. And the name is again slipping my mind. Unluckily, that's my sad part. I forget
no, I,
names.
I, I also remember that either CIA head, he may become either CIA head or FBI head.
Or
Yeah.
FBI. So basically, everything is going to undergo a change. The sort of control and impact that the deep state had in trying to create disruption in India is unlikely in the near time frame, at least during Trump's. If during this time we are able to deal with it carefully, I think that's the end of the story. But definitely, you will find that George Soros and his party, which is trying to create problems of India, are now
Open
going to
society.
start slowly going down. And possibly the first indicator will come is you will find Rahul Gandhi's trips to the US much lesser than what it was. So that will be an indicator indicating that the deep state impact is now reducing. And once the pressure is applied, the lifted by the state which is backing these guys, their effectiveness on trying to influence India or pressurize India will recede. The sort of proximity between leaders was so clear that Modi was among the first to have spoken to Trump.
Yes, yes.
Now, that itself indicates as to where the relationship still holds. Though when he went down to the US, he didn't meet him in his last visit because he was in one part of the country and Modi was in the other. But 100% undeclared, there would have been conversations, may not be direct, but through intermediaries, because there are some things which you can't declare. There are some things which you can declare. So if you're speaking head to head, it has to be declared. If you're going through a network, through other people and conveying messages, it has a different meaning. So let's see the way it goes. We have to go through December and Jan.
Two issues I would like you to address. One is that in the whole, if Ukraine issue, the way he is talking of, what will happen to Europe? Because Europe, Western Europe or NATO alliance, or I think they have been left out in cold. So how is it going to impact the equation cross-Atlantic? That is one. Second is very interesting thing which is coming to my mind is this immigration issue. You know, by some estimate, there are almost 7.2 lakh Indians, illegal migrants, which are there in US. So if he comes hard on these immigrants, what will happen to this 7.2 lakhs? And how is it going to impact India US relationship?
So let's come down first to the one which is handling, which is Europe. For Europe, the fear that has always been is after Ukraine, they are next. Secondly, there's always been a belief if you fund the Ukraine war and you decide to get Ukraine to fight and weaken Russia, there'll be no threat on Europe. We can cut down on defense expenditure, life can go as normal, and everything is fine. Trump, on the other hand, has been insisting that if Europe is to be defended from any offensive, from any direction, they all have to contribute. And their minimum share has to be 2% of the GDP, which almost none were doing. Now, if he's going to resolve the
US has spent $295 billion by some estimate on Ukraine war.
On Ukraine. Now, as far as that's what Trump was cribbing about throughout his campaigning. He says, you're giving so much of money here. What the hell are you doing by giving this money? What value is the money to you? Because you're wasting the American taxpayers' money in Ukraine, leading to hundreds of thousands of deaths. And what is the end result? So his was, he say, and the way Trump has looked at it is the way India has looked at it. The territory held by Russia will remain with Russia. Ukraine will not join NATO. Ukraine will be neutral. And that is exactly what he's going to
That is
push, and we
exactly
will
what
see that push.
Putin has been
Now,
talking
as
about.
far as Europe is concerned, the fear within Europe is we are next, is what Trump is going to tell them cool off. Russia has no intention on Europe. It had no intention on NATO. You guys mucked it up. On Ukraine, you guys mucked it up. And as far as he's concerned, he's going to cool that off with Putin and he's going to leave it where it is so that he will remove the fear, but he will push Europe to enhance his defense expenditure so that his involvement, the US involvement in Ukraine reduces.
Yeah, the name you wanted, somebody has mentioned Kashyap Patel, the one who is going to be CIA director or something.
Correct.
Or FBI
director, Kashyap Patel. Now, as far as the Indian migrants are concerned, that's a
Thank
very
you,
difficult
Satish Dasani ji. Thank you.
So, as far as the Indian migrants are concerned, it's a very difficult question to answer. How many will be deported? How many will run into Canada? How many will go underground and not be found? Because there were even illegal migrants during Trump's time. What can possibly happen is those who are caught, those who are involved in crimes are going to be deported. He's going to seal the border to prevent further from coming in. Those who are in, he's not going to give them facilities, the benefits that Biden was giving. Will they remain? Will they go back? Is the issue that is going to be debated. It's not easy for you to pick up 11.5, load them in aircraft or ships and send them to India. So the costs are prohibitive. So what are you going to do is possibly let them be and prevent further from coming. That is the first thing he's going to do. Otherwise, to detect, sir, हम लोगों ने IMDT पता नहीं क्या-क्या किया था to detect. Ultimately, where have we reached? If you remember, I mean, I'm sure you would recollect in when the Bangladeshis used to reach Jammu and the belt to cross over into Pakistan, the orders were if you catch them, you put them on the train to Calcutta. Once they reach Calcutta, they'll be taken across. You put them on the train in Jammu, they get off at the next station because you're not supposed to escort them. That's how many people can he involve in trying to send the illegal back where?
And also, these illegal migrants are quite substantially contributing to their economy. I think it will not be very easy.
Where do you send them back? Can you send them to Mexico? Can you send them to Canada? If you have to send them to India, who's going to fund the aircraft?
Okay. Now, let's take some questions, Harsh.
Right, sir.
Shritik Kothari asked, sir, the deep state tried in hardest in US, just as it did in India to get their candidate to win, but failed. How do you view this development and how do we prevent the deep state from dictating us? I think you have already answered this question.
Sir, I just like to add on here that, frankly, both Modi and Trump hate the deep state.
Yeah.
The deep state was playing against him with Kamala Harris, backing Kamala Harris. The deep state is interfering in India. I think they would, at some stage, the point is, it is not Trump per se who's going to act. It is the people whom he nominates as Secretary of State, Director FBI, CBI, who are going to be involved mainly. If they are on the right track with India, I think we'll be able to contain the deep state. And we will see it within possibly by the end of 2025.
Yes. In fact, those say front of, you can, OGWs as in our language we say, in India, they have already started showing their fangs. Since yesterday, if you follow the TV debates, many of them are not very happy with Trump coming back and all those things. So those, okay.
So you have that view, that is there.
And this Sam Keating has asked a question. Ask, sir, just for argument's sake or brainstorming, what actions Trump possibly take regarding Ukraine? Surely he can't just stop the aid. Whatever it is, what about Israel? How will he handle it?
So basically, as far as Ukraine is concerned, he's going to say no more aid. You want loan, take loan. Whatever we give you now will be on loan. We have to recollect, sir, that what the US gave to Britain for the Second World War in terms of weapons and equipment, was
till last
repaid
year.
by them till
Last year.
1975 or something. Really?
Till
Acha.
last year.
So it is something that they will have to repay.
Marshall Plan,
So if
so-called
you,
Marshall Plan help and all those things was hogwash.
so basically, whatever he's going to give them, they're going to pay. Secondly, he's not going to let anything go out. But at the same time, he's not going to let the war get out of hand. He's going to push for peace there. So we have to remember something, we tend to miss. This is Trump's last tenure. He can't come in again. Possibly, it may be PM Modi's last tenure. Possibly. We don't know. This is the time the leaders look to leave behind a legacy, a name. Possibly, Trump may be seeking to end the war if he and Modi do it together, or he does it himself, or whichever way. He'll be looking to get a sort of global recognition, whether it's a
I
Nobel
think,
Prize,
Harsh,
whether
a
it is
little bit of
something.
it was seen yesterday's victory speech when instead of I, me, myself, which Trump 100 was doing, this time he said my team. He introduced JD Vance and he introduced others, members of his team. So I think it will be quite different.
So it's going to be
Next,
different. As
yeah.
far as Israel is concerned, he is going to continue supporting it. And though he will quietly be saying cool down on civilian casualties, but there is no way that Israel will not continue getting support. The problem is going to be within Israel itself, especially with the sacking of the defense minister. Things are getting difficult within Israel. But Trump is not going to leave them.
And one statement in this case was very pertinent of Trump when he said that we will not allow Iran to make nuclear weapons, which is a very
That is clear, sir.
shows his intent.
But there is no way that they can do anything like attempting to launch anything on Iran. It is only going to be adding on to sanctions. But then today, Iran, Russia, and North Korea are the three most sanctioned nations. इसके ऊपर क्या लगाओगे?
और क्या करो? No, it's from 79. This thing is happening against Iran. Nothing much can be done. You can't. And in fact, my own sense is one very interesting thing. Businessman that Trump is, INSTC in his scheme of things is very important to stymie BRI. And for that, Chabahar is very important, Russia is very important, and India is very important. All three are very important. So that INSTC will take
INSTC
certain
plus the corridor going, the
IMEC.
India IMEC
IMEC,
corridor.
IMEC.
So these are the things.
There is someone from Pakistan, Ahmad Ghulam Nawab Qadiani. He has asked a question. We Pakistanis always warned US about state-sponsored terrorism from India, but they ignored us. Now they have realized how dangerous Indian state is for their security. I think it's a nonsense of a statement. What to talk of it? Any comment? I think it's a harebrained point. I think. Thank you, Mr. Abdul Ghulam Nawab Qadiani Sahab. Keep living in that paradise of fool's paradise which you have created yourself. This terrorism is going.
Sir, that is the reason why special advisor to the PM called Trump a liar, compared him to Imran, compared him to.
And
they're so scared. And Shehbaz is saying that if the US wants in 2 days, they can stop the oil flow, everything coming into Pakistan, because Pakistan is literally surviving and struggling by the skin of their teeth.
Then next is this Manoj Singh. Asks, sir, when Democrats are in power, they try to pressure India for ideological reasons. Now that Trump is in power, he will pressure us economically. What do you think is less harmful for us?
You see, as far as Trump is concerned, the only thing he's concerned on is tariffs. So if there is a question of a free trade agreement coming in, the whole issue will go for the whole thing will end up. If not, there will be discussion on tariffs. If you remember, during Trump's first tenure, he said India imposes 30% tariffs on Harley-Davidson. We have to impose tariffs on Indian goods. And currently, he's made a statement that all goods coming in from anywhere in the world will undergo a 10% tariff charge. 60% from China because of their dumping policies and the state-sponsored policy for their industry. And we're expecting about 10% tariff. Even with 20% tariff, the impact on our GDP is going to be 0.1%. So let's see how it goes through. There might be
I
some influence, there'll be some discussion, but I don't think it will be very harmful, because to some extent, as long as you are procuring from their industry in terms of defense needs, you're giving them employment. In fact, Trump is well aware, though he was not the president, when the Indian airlines, all the airlines, whether Indian Airlines, Indigo, and the rest of them together, signed the largest aircraft procurement deal
yes.
from both Airbus and Boeing. So he is aware of how much India is
I think
spending on the US industry.
300. Indigo 300, Akasa 100, and Air India 100. So 300 aircraft. मतलब for next 10
And,
years,
and,
industry
and
चलती
they were
रहेगी.
spread between both Europe and the US. So basically, he's aware of how much we are investing in US companies in terms of defense procurements and others. So there will be some amount of pressure, but I don't expect it to be the level, and I don't expect it to be a manner in which will, as compared to the ideological pressure that we faced, as you call it, from the Biden
And
administration and the deep state interfering in India's matters.
yes, I mean, just by look at it, the deep state created Bangladesh, which was अच्छा खासा हमारा दोस्त था. आपने हमारे बगल में एक बीच में छुरा मार दिया, तो अब हमारी ही मुश्किलें बढ़ा दी. तो ऐसे दोस्त से तो दुश्मनी भले वो. अच्छा, लेकिन जो आपने ये बात बोली है इकोनॉमिक वाली, इसमें मैं 2 और इनपुट मेरे सजेशंस हैं जो आप कंसिडर करो. एक तो ये हार्ले डेविडसन कितने 10-20 हजार, इससे ज्यादा क्या आएंगी. ठीक है, we can always do a
No,
trade off.
he only gave an example in his last tenure. But secondly, today there is another. I mean, I have got friends who are on Harley Davidson. They're not buying the original US Harley Davidson. There is a Hero tie-up with Harley Davidson. It is a
Okay.
Hero Harley Davidson. That comes fairly more reasonable. That is imported by Hero. It's a lower version, maintained by Hero, everything done. So that is not the original one, but that's much lower in cost, and that again is linked to Harley Davidson.
Another thing is that by 60% tariff on China, I think there are a lot of business that MNCs would like to that their move will be expedited from China, and if India plays its cards well, that business will come. So what you lose in 2% tariff, 20% tariff, that will be made up by getting more business here, more jobs here.
It will not come in everything. It will come in some issues. After all, a larger part of our export to the US may not be goods as is services.
Okay.
So that is another factor. How much will be the impact on that is something we need to see. Today, the clothing industry is in a major boon, because that is expanding at a breakneck pace, because Bangladesh is sinking.
Bangladesh is
the entire industry in Bangladesh is now almost at the end.
Close.
So
Yes.
the entire lot of demands are now falling on India. So this rapid expansion, how much is it going to be taxed? What is the system? Let's see, sir. It's still time. But definitely there will be something, and economically possibly is what the PM will address.
Lalit Pandey has asked a question. What is the prognosis for Iran in view of Trump's electoral win?
So as far as Iran is concerned, firstly, I told you, sir, the new Secretary of State is the one who led the hardline on Iran. And that is going to continue, sir. He's not going to back down on the hardline of Iran. He's going to support Israel as far as Iran is concerned, but the US will not get involved in operations in Iran. There is no way that he wants to get the US armed forces involved, because once you start, it becomes very difficult in the entire Middle East. Secondly, he would not want Iran to expand the sort of battle by targeting other West Asian nations in retaliation. Thereby,
even in first the Soleimani got killed. Some strike in Syria. That's about all.
This is it, because if he's going to go in for any offensive actions, he's actually going to ask for trouble, and I don't think he's going to do that.
Okay, and to my mind, he will try to find a way to deal with Iran. Not that I have any kind of a doubt that illusion that Iran will be he will be soft on Iran, but at the same time he may find a way through India. I think this INSTC may be a very useful bit.
There goes.
Now this
But ah,
this question is Satish Sadasivuni. Trump, in his first tweet of 2018, attacked Pakistan and accused of it of deceit. Ironically, many supporters of PTI are rooting for Trump on social media under the illusion that Trump will save Pakistan.
so basically, why the PTI is rooting is they believe that just because Imran Khan met Trump in Washington during his tenure, so they are thinking that he is going to fight for his release. There is no way. More importantly, now for Pakistan is they are all, in fact, the PTI is already looking at options of moving Imran Khan out of Pakistan to either England or some other country, because there is no way he's going to get out from behind bars. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, I don't think Trump will even bother to deal with them. 4 years, Biden hasn't even spoken to Shehbaz. I don't think they've exchanged anything. You guys have been coming in and out as a formality. But Pakistan, frankly, is meaningless. It's further meaningless because of its close ties with China. And the way it's surviving, it knows it cannot survive without IMF, and IMF is controlled by the US.
One small thing which I think in Pakistan's case, that he may slightly ease the loan from IMF so that Pakistan floats. It just survives. I mean, he is not going to close the tap.
He will still control the reins. No matter what you do, the reins are there. That is what Shehbaz said, that if he wants, he can sort us out in no time.
Sharad Seth has asked, will Trump help our country by way of undoing the damage done to us in Bangladesh, change of government?
So I really don't know what can happen now, because see, it is too early to say, number one. Number two is, now if he ignores Yunus, the country is going to go further downhill and radicalization is going to come in. It's possibly a very difficult scenario for Bangladesh to look at removal of Yunus and demanding Sheikh Hasina back. And there is no way you can impose Sheikh Hasina on the country. The army chief has gone there to the US, met all concerned, but 75 days later, there's a total turnover, and I don't think he'll ever be invited again to meet people, unless they're looking at him rechanging the scenario. It may not be Sheikh Hasina coming in, but possibly you could look at a change of government where you may find someone who is more sensible, possibly pro-India or someone, but that is something which we need to wait.
And I think, Harsh, in this case, he will have to stem the rot of this excessive radicalization first. That is what he will try. I think next 2 years would be used that way. Now, this future DGRT, ask on what policies or grounds can you see American institutions resisting Trump? What ideological difference can we exploit per se if we were to play it smart?
I don't think you'll find very much of a resistance coming down, because as far as the government institutions are concerned, he's going to place his own heads. But there is something we need to realize. The carrier lot, which is there, whether you're in the Department of State, whether you're in the Pentagon, they are carrier lot, and they are the ones who actually define policy. If the guy at the head is very clear and strong and he pushes the way the policy is going to be, you will find a change in policy, you will find resignations. And we will possibly start by seeing resignations of people like Donald Lu and the others who realize that they will not be able to continue with the new administration. So when you find the resignations floating in, you will realize that there is a change coming into the institutions. And for this, we will need to wait for the first 4-5 months. And this change is bound to come in because the people that he's selecting, they have to settle in. If you remember, in Trump's first tenure, he sacked quite a few people in the first few months because they were not matching up to his requirement. And secondly, he himself has a block in terms of time of concentration. He can't go through long presentations. Things have to be
Well,
short and absolutely to the point, and that's it. And the number of guys who got sacked by him, Bolton and a whole gang of lot which got sacked, they all went against him. But the end result is he's back. And now the lot that he's going to feel, I think he's going to push in people who are going to back his thoughts to the hilt, and a number of them who've been with him throughout the campaign.
that the last question is one NRK asks, sir, I feel we are getting too optimistic.
I'm not saying optimistic. What I would like to say is, you see, we're looking at the way things were in the first tenure and the things they're here. And like when we describe the reactions coming in from Bangladesh, it is how Trump spoke about it. It's the Pakistanis who are speaking themselves. It's the Canadians. I mean, if you go down to Twitter and you see the comments being made by Kartha, Freeland, and Jagmeet Singh, you find their comments are themselves just speaking out that this is their concerns, their worries. So basically, what we are doing is we are deriving it from their own concerns and worries. As far as India is concerned, I mean, if the PM is the first to be able to speak to him on the phone, that itself is an indicator that he's willing to, I mean, if he's willing to take the call, after all, it goes through a number of channels. It's not like you and me on a mobile, you pick up and call the number. So if it goes through all of this and all of these are recorded, the fact is that you've been able to get through at the first, I mean, and be the first to speak and wish. I think it carries a lot of weight.
That was a very, very stimulating conversation, Harsh. Thanks a ton for all your inputs and your insights because you are a great watcher of international relations. All it is left for me to say a big thank you to you. For viewers,
Thank you,
I would
sir.
say
Pleasure.
that as far as this change, it is better to have someone who is the entire orientation of US policy is going to slightly undergo change. Let's be very
Sir, I'd
clear.
like to add. Sir, I'd
Yeah.
like to add, it's better to have a known devil than an unknown devil, sir.
Yes.
Kamala
I was
Harris
just
was vice
about to say,
president, but as president,
yes.
she's an unknown devil. We've seen
Yeah.
him as the president earlier, we'll see him again.
Yes. More important is that let us be philosophical about one fact that no US president will ever work against the national interest of US. So we have to be prepared and we have to take it that Trump also will be no different. And so we have to think about our own national interests, one. Second is, instead of ideological underpinnings, which present government was doing, it is better to have someone economic based underpinnings, which the new administration may be having. So therefore, we will have to think in terms of tariffs. We will have to think in immigration, and he is trying to extract favors from us. He will be more transactional. Yes, it is okay, but as you said very rightly, known devil is better than unknown devil. And thank you, all
Thank you, sir.
the viewers. It was great bringing this subject to you all. All it is left for me to request you all to please like, subscribe, and share today's conversation. I think having been on some other say forums, I can just say that we were absolutely professional in our approach, and this is our USP and will continue to be. And Harsh, once again, thank you. Best
Thank you, sir.
wishes. Good night.
Bye, sir. Good night, sir.
Good night.